February, Department report. The proposal for that was a high-end quote for like redoing all of the, everything, electrical, you name it. So I think, like Dave said, we should get 3 quotes at least on what we want to do to repair that building. Thank you.
And you might be able to do some kind of unofficial, like poll maybe through the website or something like that, but certainly not a referendum on at an election.
That was just a thought. It was just a discussion we all had.
Yeah, and maybe Aaron can look into how to do that. There's ways that you can do surveys out there that you can ensure that what the same person isn't just answering it over and over again.
Sure.
George Jones, I live on Clover Lane. Just to talk a little bit about the schoolhouse, I'm not a pro or con, but I would like to see everything spelled out. And when we talk about 500,000, it's really 700,000 because we already spent 200,000. So if the estimate to fix it is another 5, now you're up to 7. And that estimate's old, so you're probably at 850 or 800. You know, if you're going to talk about numbers, talk about realistic numbers. And as far as the historical grant, if you stop and think about it, when you get involved with these historical societies, they're going to make you abide by what they want done. And I think you really back yourself into a corner by accepting that $100,000. I think if you really wanted to redo the building, you would just do it as a community and not really get involved with these historical organizations, because what ends up happening, you're going to get backed into a corner and you may spend a lot more money than you really have to or you really want to. So I would say do a comprehensive study on what all the options and possibilities are, and then go back and try to narrow it down. And then whatever makes sense, that's what I think you should go with. But just to approach this with more of an open mind, and don't be so locked in that I don't want it or I want it and that sort of thing, but just keep in mind what the real numbers are. And that's what I would ask. And the other thing is, I wanted to talk a little bit about NIFR. That was the earlier topic before we talked about the schoolhouse. Not to get off track, but I think that the truck traffic that goes on NIFR is, it's just not safe. You have large trucks. There's a lot of these really large dump trucks, especially. I don't know, there's many truck carriers in the area, and they just run up and down NIFR all day long. And there's certain turns in NIFR, it's impossible for a truck that size to make that turn and stay on their side of the road. It's impossible.
It's on tractor trailer that's sitting on my way from work going down there at the church. Like,
and once in a while, you'll see even a 53-foot tractor trailer, you know, the full size, and you'll even see them blow down here because really it's the only through street between here and say over to Ridge or that area swamp to the far end of swamp. And I'll be honest with you, I just think it's totally unsafe. You see other townships have restriction, no truck over 10,000 pounds and this sort of thing. Shelley is a good example. Down by Landis, you'll see a sign right at the beginning, no trucks over. And Shelley's straight as an arrow. You have that new circle, but beyond that, that's a pretty straight road. They're restricting truck traffic.
This will become like a 29 issue where all the municipalities kind of come together. So, you know, we have Lower Frederick, and then it's going to be Limerick Township.
Yeah, but well, Lower Frederick comes in down by Swamp Creek just for a little
bit farther
bit, and then Limerick picks up as you go up the hill. But it's really unsafe, and sooner or later, and the fact is, they don't even go slow and drive carefully. They really speed. And even on the straight parts, they're taking their half out of the middle. They're riding the line or they're over the line. And sooner or later, someone's going to get hurt. And these trucks, they don't slow down instantly. And it's impossible for them to make some of those turns. I would like to be out there when PennDOT does the study and have them bring a large dump truck. And we could all sit there and watch how they maneuver. And I'll guarantee you they won't be able to do it. So, you know, they can say what they want, and they're gonna get a lot of pushback from the trucking outfits because that's a short way to go. If you have to get from point A to point B. Because if you don't take Knifer, you have to go a long ways around to get over to Ridge or where Ridge and Swamp come in.
We'll just move over and go to Fayetteville then.
Yeah. We don't want to go Kirby.
But I think that study, and then getting back to the retarder, the real battle is, the only time a big truck is going to slow down coming through this township is to make the turn onto Knifer. If you stop and think about what's going on as far as the trucks. So I would say you need at least a quarter mile, like, on 73, you need to restrict the brake retarders at least a quarter mile before and after Knifer. Like, I guess that would be east or west of Knifer. And because that's the only time these big trucks are gonna hit their brakes. They're not gonna slow down and turn on these other roads because they don't go down these other roads, or it's very rare. But they do go down Knifer. So I don't think you need to do one end of the township to the other, but I think a good range would be about a quarter of a mile each way, either side of Knifer. That's it.
So you definitely gotta think about the traffic safety too. Those guys use those retarders to slow those big trucks down. So after our last meeting, I had someone who had called me because they watched this online. That was the first thing he said. He goes, buddy, just to break it down, and these little, he calls us four-wheelers, when these four-wheelers hit the brake, he was like, you know, they think I can stop on a dime. He goes, I have to use that retarder to stop on time. So that's food for thought too. And then just to touch on the schoolhouse, it wasn't to renovate just the schoolhouse, it was also the purpose of the schoolhouse. What would we use it for?
That's what I was.
You know, and that was the big hiccup there as well. So again, like Ms. Lisa said, it wasn't just to service 1% of the township, what does everybody want to do? Nobody here's against it, it's just, what does the community want to do? So that's all that was.
So what is it for? What's the purpose?
They were talking about making it right here, this meeting room here. And I didn't think.
Expanding the conference room size.
Right.
Oh,
Taking this out of here and expanding it a little bit.
I thought it was taking a one-room schoolhouse that we used to have and renovating it for historical purposes or something. Sorry, Johnny, come lately.
That's okay. But that's what that is there. Professional Engineer RFP. I believe we finally found them.
Yes, there was a RFP put out earlier this year for engineering services. We received probably 7 or 8 big packages. I'm beginning the process of going through those. I think that's one of the more pertinent issues for me to undertake at this time, as I've been out there and waiting for quite a while. So as I'm doing my review, I am grading them. Once I'm finished grading them, I'll give each member of the board a grade sheet as well, and give you each a copy of every single RFP so that you guys can review as well. And that way I can take your individual grade sheets back and average it out and see from there if you want to bring in for interviews.
Thanks.
The other one was the public comment ordinance. That was another one added via Mr. Frisco, but I'm not sure what he
I
wanted.
don't know either. He asked to add it. So.
Is everybody happy with being able to talk? I mean, did we restrict you in some way? I'm not sure. I thought I was.
But there's an ordinance that does restrict us, and if we say what you don't want to hear, you can charge us with a misdemeanor.
So I've already spoke to Mr. Woolriser about that. That's something I ran on. Said day one I'd repeal that, but we've been in such turmoil here, as you know, Mr. Benzak. Once that turmoil had ended, I already spoke to Mr. Woolriser. We're going to look at that. That is something we're going to look at rescinding.
Perfect.
Jailing residents is never going to be an option with me. So,
1700s?
what's that?
Is that the 1700s?
Medieval time, baby. Watch yourself. Get the wheel at that down here.
Mr. Leonard, can I
Yes, sir.
add a little bit more about our discussion?
Oh, yes, sir. Go ahead.
We did talk about that discussion. And, you know, this is something we're going to have to discuss a little further, but I did want to mention that sometimes limits are used in public meetings. Usually when you have an expected large crowd and an expected low meeting, like if a development comes in, you'll usually have a very large meeting that can run long and have many people that want to speak. Sometimes time limits are used in that format just to ensure that we're able to, you know, finish before 3 a.m. in the morning, and so that everyone can have a chance to talk. So that might be one of the few exceptions, you know, as we go, we'll look at this, you know, resolution, because it is our intent to try to make it as free as possible and to remove the criminal offense altogether regardless, but we do want to make sure that we have, I believe, some of the ability to, you know, if we do have one of those larger meetings, to use some control.
Yeah, I asked for a copy, but I have not even seen the ordinance yet, so was not even aware that there was a criminal section to it.
Yeah.
There should not be. There should be something more along with what Aaron's saying that says, you know, public comment is limited to a certain amount of minutes, and that's only to make sure that you're not.
Right. So I do have it. I'll email both these. I believe you already have it, Ms. Bishop, from when we ran for office here. It was just a 3-minute, everybody gets to talk 3 minutes, you know what I mean? No one had a problem with that. There was an incident here where someone spoke a little longer about touchy subjects. That's when we come in with, you know, adding the 5508 from the penal code to it. So that is the only part I want to rescind. We should have 3 minutes because, you know, who wants to sit here for 2 and 3 hours, 4 hours if it shouldn't be or nothing. So, but yeah, so we do have the 3 minutes in there. Mr. Benzak, that is the one thing I do want to pull out of there is jailing you or fining you
Thank you.
for telling me that you're offended by something I did.
I didn't do the one.
So that's that. All right. So that's it for the public comment ordinance. I'm going by Ms. Fisher's notes here because I was coaching baseball today, so I can't read that.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. She writes so nice and I can't read
No,
it.
I didn't. I was right next to all. I don't know what you're talking about.
I didn't want to offend you. That's terrible. No.
This has updates on some questions that were asked at the last meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Yep.
That's what she's gonna
So-
tell us.
And
Question came.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Before we move on, I did want to hit the thing you said, Mr. Jones, about the Kniford Road, talking about the speed. And I apologize for cutting you off and going back. But Steve, is there a way, so I did have someone come to me about the speed on not just that road, Perkiomenville Road. And I can tell you, I've been past on Perkiomenville Road. It's insane coming out of that park. But also Faust Road. It's like a drag strip. It's insane. I don't know how they see coming down over. I tell the school bus to pull in my driveway because I'm afraid the bus is going to get hit. Is there signage or something that we can put out there? And I'm only asking because that question was just put to me on Saturday.
Yeah, we have the signage for it, but to enforce it, that's the biggest issue.
So
Until it gets repaved, it's gonna be a lot more fun.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna have spike strips out there. But isn't there like, so I used to sell intersections, traffic intersections, things like that. We used to have signage out there that has, you know, the fancy police lights around it, tells you your speed. Also has a camera inside of there, right? So you know, as many others do, I do cameras. And I have cameras that'll track your speed, take a picture of your license plate, take a picture of your face as you're going by at 70 miles an hour. Is that a possibility?
I think that there's a possibility with the state that can also bring out a digital,
Okay.
yeah.
Have we done that in the past?
No.
These are just a couple of questions I was hitting. Okay, so the state,
Not during my experience.
Mr. Walrosa, do you know?
I believe state troopers do have a device that will do that. I will have to reach out to them to see if they'd be willing to, you know,
Load it?
loan
I'll
it
rent
for
it.
a period.
Okay, yeah, because there's a couple places. This is
And
not
Montgomery
just
County
Knifeld Road,
Safety.
Fableysville Road, I know that's.
Yeah, I can reach out to
Montgomery
Montgomery County
County.
Safety as well.
Safety will have it as well.
Okay, yeah, I'm not trying to harass our residents, but at some point, I take public safety into, you know what I mean? So, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Stacy. I just remembered, and I didn't want to forget that move again, I promise I won't.
We have one, Jason on your crew asked when I introduced Aaron to him, he said, are we allowed to like officially ticket people on the roads when they're speeding?
That's the problem you have with the cameras, who's gonna rate the tickets?
Yeah, that's why I was asking about.
You
if
have
it
to
comes
go,
through
you
the
have to
state.
go to the township would have to go to the JP and be the one to prosecute. That's how it used to be.
So what, go through like a Mo sailor, like through a person like that, or?
Yeah, it's very complicated since we don't have police.
It's still, let's look into it.
But you could at least put the sign to kind of deter the people,
Yeah.
even if you can't really do
No,
it.
absolutely, yeah.
Another issue.
Oh, because the bunker factor will go up when you see that, you're like, uh-oh. Yeah,
Well, not
that's all.
everybody
it is.
driving on our roads is in our township knows that we don't have police either. Not everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Now they
People are
know
just
we're all
going through.
through.
Right?
Now that we're going live on Facebook, they're all gonna.
We got lots of
Not for this meeting, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so questions that came up at the workshop meeting last week. It was requested that we follow up on code enforcement, which we have done. Last you asked that question, so it looks like we've followed up on that. We've committed to making sure that John Cook provides an update at every monthly meeting. There was a request from, to confirm that the reimbursement of $5,000 from Bill Trey had been returned. I did receive from our treasurer, Linda Major, I don't have it on me, but she provided the payment schedule, the actual payments. And I think the final repayment was August of 2023.
Yes.
10, October.
October of 2023?
Yeah.
Oh,
That
so
was
you
the
have a
final
schedule
payment.
in front
I
of
don't
you.
know, I only have the date of the last payment, that's
I could
it.
get it, it's in
I
my
don't have the
phone,
whole
but he made,
schedule.
made 3 payments and then paid.
$400.
After a variety of $200
You made about eight,
Correct.
200,
Yeah.
$200 payments for it.
What was that for? What was
That
that
was a
for?
The money he had
requirement.
to pay back.
Right. It was
For
a-
the ethics violation?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Got it.
Yeah. So he made a group of payments and then he just paid it all off.
Was also asked that we confirm that the auditor's resignation was formally motioned and approved, which we did tonight. Thank you, George, for catching that we talked about it, but we never made the motion. And then George Jones had asked if there was any outstanding loans, and there are, but we have to work. Aaron has to schedule time with Linda to go over all the budget, and he's going to go through the questions of loans and have a more comprehensive answer for you related to the loans, rather than just say, yeah, we have.
That's a work in progress.
Yes, there's a loan, but there is. We'll have to get more information on that. Yes, I think you'd asked if there was any outstanding lawsuits, and Vicki confirmed.
There's two that I'm aware of. They're, the documents are public because it's a lawsuit, it's filed with court. Anybody can look up the complaints and what's been happening so far. There are two that I'm aware of. One is regarding Potosa, which is proposed for a settlement right now. I have not had a chance to review it yet with our engineer and Steve so that we can go over the terms. If it does become a formal settlement, it will come back to the board for formal approval at a public meeting. But right now, that's the status of that one. There is a second one that I'm gonna probably say this wrong, so I apologize if anybody knows this person. It's Campisi is the last name, which was a trip and fall. The latest thing that happened was there was some preliminary objections that were denied by the court. But nothing else is sort of happening with that yet. There's a lot of players in that lawsuit, so it's slowly going through the court system. Those are the only two that I'm aware of in response to the question.
What years did they bring those lawsuits?
The second one was this year, just at the beginning of the year. I don't know about Potosa. Do any of you know when it started? I don't know when the formal suit was filed.
It's going back 10 years.
10, no, but I was gonna say, I could look at the thing and see if it has, so the caption number for the complaint is 2019. So that's how long it's been hanging out there, 2019.
Further than that, doesn't it?
I'm sure the history does, but that's when the formal
Yeah.
lawsuit
That's what I was gonna
was
say, it's been going on for a long time, it's probably formalized in 19.
Right, I was gonna say, we
Correct.
spoke about that when we came on here. That's how I know
Yes.
about that.
And that will come, I can't give any details at all yet about the potential settlement because it's not in final form yet. When it gets in final form, it will come to you for approval and then I will tell you about it.
Well, thanks for all your effort to come forward with some answers.
Sure.
Because I think it's good for everyone to know where we stand and what's going on.
There was another question that was piggybacked, I think, on George Jones about the loans, and that was Dave Hansen asking if there were loans for the town, loans from Perkiomen Crossing, water sewer with the township itself, like loaning from us. So that's part of the loan discussion that Aaron will follow up on. And Les, you had commented last week that you weren't getting alert updates from the new website. So Bill, you were looking into that?
I did. He was, again, we're gonna work with Mr. Walliser, I apologize. He was gonna work with him, and he said it was nothing but putting a little toggle button on there. So I'm surprised it's up there now, because I'm sure if I look through my phone, I'm almost 1,000%. He texted me and said, "You're all set." So if it's not there today, and I've just been busy with farm and kids, I will look at it, and if it's not there, as you see, I'll be on the phone with him tomorrow morning.
When you say a toggle button, you mean as a user, I would go onto the website and there's a toggle that says, yes, I'd like to request alert updates?
Right, so there's a
So
button.
all of us could do that?
Oh, absolutely, 1,000%. So what would happen was, Mr. Jones, just to use it for example, go on there, hit the button, he puts in his email address, it'll pop up two fields. One, you can do text messages, or you can do an email. And it basically spits out the agenda to your cell phone or your email address. That's how it used to work, I'm almost positive, because I was on that as well, and I haven't been getting them as well. But there was a lot of moving parts there with him. Evidently, it wasn't just the previous manager working with him. There was a couple different people who had their fingers into the website. One guy couldn't hold up his end of the deal, let's say, and that's how we got involved with this other gentleman. And then he had to work with him to get it over there, and then to pull our Civic Plus there. It was a match. It was a big undertaking. But I believe, as I said, he just told me we're all set. And he did it the same day that I had emailed you and said I got you an email address and I got your credentials for login there. So again, if I don't see it, Les, I guarantee you'll hear about it. It should be there, Les, is what I'm telling you. Is that it, Ms. Fisher?
That was the last question from last week.
Any other public comment?
Yeah, I do. Les Benz, ex-Whiteford Road. I was just wondering on the,
Yes, you did.
Les Benz, ex-Whiteford Road. I was just wondering, what should we expecting for the development? And maybe Norm would, I'm glad he's here to address this. What should we see? Can you drill a test well without a permit? Can he go on his own property and drill a test well with all the equipment? Is that?
He notified the township, and the township did, through LTL, have that witnessed. So it was essentially an inspection report. So as far as can he drill the well without a permit, the permit you would need to obtain would be for like a single-family home, but what he did was much more significant than that. But he did not affect your groundwater table because it was essentially a drawdown, it was a test.